Well, we'll go ahead and get started there. Usually Leslie comes in and introduces, but I've done it enough, I can introduce myself. So we're here for how to heal your digestion, heal your gut through there. We've kind of changed it up a little bit. Some of the newer terms coming out, we're going to hack your digestion. So it's hacking your life, make things better there. So top ways to heal your gut in constipation, diarrhea, bloating, and stomach pain. 70 million people a year have digestive issues. Just under the category of constipation, diarrhea, bloating, or stomach pain. Just under those, 70 million a year. We'll see a gastroenterologist for that.
Wow.
Just for those. So that's a ton. A ton of people suffer from this stuff. This leads to lots of other conditions and diseases because of that digestion is really key for everything in the body. If your digestion's messed up, you're messed up. So this is me up there and here in front of you there. So who am I? I'm Dr. Jerry Bailey. I'm a functional medicine practitioner here in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and Liberty Lake, Washington. I'm a chiropractor first, and I became an acupuncturist. Then I got a master's degree in human nutrition and functional medicine from the University of Western States out of Portland, Oregon. I am now a professor there also. I teach in the hormones and neurotransmitters course. And so in that course itself, we cover a lot of how the body functions from the hormone perspective and also the neurotransmitter, but we tie a ton in with digestion. And in my course itself, I kind of bring everything that students learn, because it's towards the end of the program, everything they learned, and then how to manage you guys as patients. And so we kind of tie everything together there and really see how digestion is the key for everything. If we're not digesting your food, if we have leaky gut, which medical physicians or medical providers don't like that term leaky gut. So I always say, they're like, that doesn't exist. I'm like, all right, so let's put it in your terms. Let's call it simply intestinal permeability. And they're like, oh, I know what that is. Okay. I'm like, well, I'll call you what it is, and I'm going to call it what we tell patients because it makes it a lot easier. It's leaky gut. Okay? And so that's the key for a lot of things going on with the body, is that issue itself, that leaky gut that occurs. And we'll go a little bit through it here tonight. And it's really just a pulling apart of the initial cells in our GI tract. And once that happens, bacteria and proteins and carbohydrates and foods can get right into the immune layer of itself in the gut, and then that creates the reaction. We shouldn't have, you may have heard of things like food sensitivities or food allergies. The only allergies that we should have or sensitivities are those ones that are true allergies themselves. So peanuts, strawberries, or other foods that a person has an anaphylactic reaction to. We should not have any other reaction to food there itself. If we do, that is that leaky gut, that intestinal permeability that's going on that's causing that. And you can heal that up. It may take some time, but it's definitely ability to get back foods into the diet again. Usually grains is a big contributor to it, and dairy also. But those are a couple foods that we typically take out because those are causing most of the problem. If I'm going too fast, if I talk too fast, just tell me to slow down. I tend to talk really fast. My staff always tells me, slow down. I'm like, I got so much to say. I'm also a dad, a triathlete, a CrossFitter, a musician. And then my story itself, born and raised in Michigan, grew up there, went to college there, met my wife in college, and then we were both looking at going to med school, or PA program at the time, which was coming about, and PA was kind of growing, physician assistant was kind of growing really big at that time in the early 90s. And so we're like, hey, we should do this, but it didn't quite fit with what our thoughts were. My undergrad was exercise physiology, cardiac rehab specialty, and nutrition. And I was working in cardiac rehab and working in with stress testing and with the cardiologist. And I was like, hey, I want to do cardiothoracic surgery. I want to go in and do open heart surgery. This is awesome stuff. I got to sit and observe in a bunch of surgeries and loved it. Got in trouble with the surgeons because I would sit like this. Because during that surgery, the anesthesiologist says they're done. Because the person's on a bypass typically at that point. And so I'm sitting right here by the individual's head sitting here, and I'm watching the heart right here, and I'm just like this, and every so often I just feel this little searing, burning pain in the side of my head. It's like, look up, and the surgeon's looking at me, and the assistant's looking at me, and they're like, you need to back up. I'm like, okay, sorry. 10 minutes later, it's like right there again. So that was like my passion. It's like, that's what I wanted to do. And then, so I met with the surgeons, met with the cardiologist, and they said, can you go shut that real quick? That door? They said, I was like, hey, this is what I want to do. I wanted to be a cardiothoracic surgeon. What do I have to do? What's the steps I need to go? And every single one of them said, don't do it. I was like, what?
Wow.
They're like, don't do it. This is the big, HMOs were big in the early 90s and everything. They're like, you make a ton of money. I'm like, that's good. Mm-hmm. Your life is horrible. You're never home. You're usually divorced, and your just life isn't good. I'm like, well, money does not make up for those other things at all. And so I'm like, well, what do you guys suggest I do? And every single one of them said, do prevention. That's where medicine's going to go, is prevention. And so it was like, okay, well, there's not really preventative medicine within medicine itself. It's all reactive. And so it was like, well, what are we going to do? My wife she was kind of in the same boat. She wanted to do kind of primary care, and she observed with some docs and wasn't happy with medicine at the time of seeing that. And so she went to the career center at our university and was flipping through like medicine, and it was like MD, DO, ND, naturopathic physician. She's like, what's that? Pulled it out, read it, and she was like, that's what I want to do. And I was like, well, you were doing that, I don't want to do it too. It's just two people doing the same thing. It doesn't work a lot of times. So I said, well, what else is where she was at? Going to be going to school in Portland, and chiropractic school is there, so that's kind of how I became a chiropractor. Love what I do every day. Love helping patients from that chiropractic, from adjusting, but it's still a portion of my practice. I also do the acupuncture and then the nutritional aspect, which we'll talk about tonight, because that's what people need. I mean, I can adjust a bunch of people all week long, but it's a lot of other things they need besides that, and that's where the nutrition comes in. So that's my story. I love what I do. That's why I get real excited as I'm up here talking. I love it. I love helping people. I love seeing the changes in people's life and health and everything, and what we're doing in the office and helping them through that process of being from sick or something else going on to that huge state of wellness and really thriving and not just surviving. You know, they're living life and enjoying it, doing things they want to do. And the cure here, the miracle cure, truly amazing, works in minutes, guaranteed, does not exist. It does not exist at all. You know, medicine can do so many things to help save your life, but when you're on medications, what's the next process? It's the next med, it's the next med, it's the next med. Doctors know that too, and they're very frustrated. When we do our functional medicine seminars, and even the masters too that I'm teaching in, there's a ton. It used to be mostly chiropractors, acupuncture, and naturopaths. Now it's pretty much MDs, DOs, and nurse practitioners and PAs there, because they're very frustrated with their practices, they're very frustrated with their lives, and they want to start helping people again. And every single one that I've talked to that comes up and says, I want to know what you're doing and how you're doing it and everything else. I'm like, you do the certification, then come talk to us. Because we have to deprogram your brain into what you think you know what you're doing to, it's not about what you know, I mean it's about what you know, but it's about what the patient tells you. And that is such a key aspect, is getting your story out to us as we're talking to you, so we know where things went wrong, and then we can correct it from there. Because if we don't take that time to know you and what happened to you, we don't have the faintest clue on what to do, and that's just that dropping little pills in the bucket to see what happens. And it's a learning process, but there is no miracle cure. I can give you all the supplements in the world. If we don't see changes, you know, some patients come in like, I got a great diet. I'm like, okay, you got a great diet, let's start from supplements and see what's going on. And sometimes we have to come back after a couple months and go, so what is your diet? And you're like, oh really, your diet's really poor, it's not that good. So we always try to start with diet for the most part with patients. But you know, like I said, 70 million people a year will see a gastroenterologist. I got some good friends that are GI docs, that are amazing docs, that do some functional medicine stuff, and they're just like, we're just so dang busy because this is what we see all day long. So you know, you're going to end up with heartburn. That's a common ailment. The GERD, gastroesophageal reflux, through there. Low acid issues, gas and bloating through there. Constipation. It's getting behind me now. Constipation there. Diarrhea, those are issues. Irritable bowel syndrome with constipation, very common. Irritable bowel syndrome with diarrhea, another very common. You know, most of the time it's either constipation or diarrhea, but then you have the combination. And so you can have both going on at the same time. IBS kind of becomes this umbrella of like, hey, your bowels are irritated. So we're going to say you have IBS. Genius diagnosis. Because we don't know what it is, so we're just going to call it this, and then you either got constipation or diarrhea or both. Then you got small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. Yeah, it's diagnosing is, I mean, the diagnosis when you get into it, it's like stupid. It's like, this isn't really a diagnosis, you're just giving symptoms. Like hypercholesterol, that's a symptom, it's not a diagnosis. There. So SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. Dysmotility or motility issues within the GI tract is also really big. We'll see those issues. Adhesions within there, same thing. Let's see, food sensitivities, as I talked about there. Leaky gut. Fatty stool is another big one that can happen through there. Diverticulitis is another one. These are all conditions of the GI tract that are symptoms of an issue. They're not truly a diagnosis, but they're symptoms of things going on. Crohn's disease also, I can't tell you how many patients I've seen that are young and have Crohn's disease, and the docs always, and most of the stuff can be cured with diet alone and fixed. But I can't tell you how many times I get a patient coming in that's had Crohn's for a long time and they've resected and taken out their bowels or portions of their bowel. And I'm like, did they ever tell you not to eat wheat or dairy? And they're like, no. They said diet doesn't matter. It's like, okay. Let's take you off that. And amazingly, from then on out, majority, because they still have symptoms at that point because they're still eating the stuff and it's still affecting now their small intestine. And so we'll change that diet, and all of a sudden they're like, hey, all my symptoms are gone. I'm like, it's a miracle. There's your miracle cure right there. The food is killing us. Ulcerative colitis, that's another one. Pain in the abdomen, those different ones there. Bad breath also associated with it, too. Those are all symptoms, not diagnosis. These are all symptoms. Every single one of these up here, these are all symptoms of something. They're not a diagnosis. So, and disorders associated with the gut itself. So the IBS, diarrhea, constipation, CD. So now we're saying, here's the diagnoses for these that they're saying. Inflammatory bowel disease. Your bowel's inflamed, so now it's a disease. Chronic fatigue, hugely associated with GI disorders. Yeast infections, women and in men. Chronic yeast infections are associated with GI stuff. Headaches, migraines, immune deficiencies, acne, eczema, there's like 60 on here, I think. Psoriasis, thyroid disorders, just on down the time. Dermatitis, what else here? Urticaria, so hives through there. ADD, ADHD, also associated with food sensitivities, associated with leaky gut, associated with digestive disorders. Pretty much if you can name a condition, for the most part, you can relate it back to the colon and small intestine and digestion itself. Autism spectrum disorder can be managed somewhat with this too. Rheumatoid diseases, I can't tell you how many times I've seen autoimmune diseases cured, quote unquote cured. I didn't cure them, patient did it themselves, just by diet.
Wow.
Obesity itself too, pancreatic insufficiency, so issues with digestion, liver dysfunction, gosh, how many more we got going here? Alcoholism and addiction also, there's been associated with bacterial changes in there itself. Bacteria within our small intestine and large intestine actually are a living entity. We need them. Otherwise, we don't break down our food very well. They help break down the food so then it can be absorbed into the large intestine, small intestine, taken to the liver, and then done what it needs to do to go through the body. Bacteria can change themselves within there depending on how the environment is, stressful environment, other things, and they'll actually trigger addictions. There's also ones too, I just did a talk here last week on men's health, that there is specific bacteria within our small intestine and large intestine in both men and women that actually will release testosterone, release estrogen, and release progesterone. So they'll up your levels of those in your body. Or they'll create it where they're releasing markers that will tell it to shut off and cause you to have low testosterone, low estrogen, low progesterone in the body too. So that bacteria likes to mess with us if we mess with it. Depression also hugely there, diabetes, MS, multiple sclerosis is another one. That's a huge one associated with it. Dr. Terry Walls, a wonderful medical physician, she was in a wheelchair with MS, basically like go home, you're done, good luck with your life, cured it with diet. She has a wonderful story. Look up her stuff, Terry Walls, W-A-H-L-S. Phenomenal story. You can see it on YouTube. She's a phenomenal physician. And she speaks all the time. Cardiovascular disease itself, also associated with GI stuff. Anxiety, ton of anxiety, like I said, depression, all associated with that too. Hormone imbalances, like I was saying, bacteria can change that significantly. Leaky gut can cause inflammation through there. Alzheimer's and dementia, associated with gut dysfunction. So I just said dementia there. So you can see this is a pretty significant list of pretty much what a person's going to see a physician for. I missed some in there, I'm sure. But this is what a person's going to see a physician for, is all these different things. And it can not always, but it can be attributed to, majority of the time, to digestive issues. So some things we do in the office to help figure out what's going on based on what we're seeing there. We can do some what's called a Dutch test, which looks at the hormones themselves in the body and their metabolites, and that'll key us in to how your metabolism's kicking. A new one, we just started doing the GI map test, and this looks at actually microbial changes within the colon itself. So it's an actual stool test. Really simple, really cost effective. It's $336 for that one. That's really inexpensive for most tests. Dutch test itself is $250, so right there we're about a little over $500, and we can get a huge picture of what's going on with you. That your regular labs, when you go to the doctor and you're like, I just don't feel good, doc, and I don't know what's going on. And they run blood work. Well, we can't find nothing wrong with in your head. Who hasn't heard that? Yeah. And they just don't know what tests to run. And that's just the truth there. We run the same test they do, and a lot of times, they'll come back and it's like, gosh, I can't find anything here, even when I take those values and I shrink them down. And so then we have to step back and go, let's look more at a functional state versus a disease state, and that's where this testing comes in, is looking at you in a functional state of what your body's actually doing with its biochemistry and how it's functioning versus is it in a disease state. So organic acids, this is another wonderful test that looks at really your biochemistry, how your body is utilizing energy, both in the carbohydrates and the fats, how well your mitochondria, which are little teeny cells within our cells that are producing our energy that we need, okay? So it looks at how that's functioning, it looks how we're using B vitamins, how well the liver is actually detoxifying the body versus the liver tests, your AST, AGT, those tests, which looks at disease states, if that liver is truly inflamed. These ones look at, is your body detoxifying itself? So this checks that. It also checks if there's some bacterial overgrowth in the body, it would be caught on that organic acids test also. It also looks at inflammation in the cellular level of our body. So it sees, are our cells inflamed? Versus a blood test that looks at kind of inflammation throughout the body. We may run what's called a sed rate, which looks at how quickly that blood settles down. And that itself looks at inflammation in the body overall. It's not always elevated. You may look at what's called a highly sensitive C-reactive protein, which is an inflammatory marker in the body itself. Not always positive unless there really is kind of an autoimmune condition going on. So we can run these tests and they're negative, but you still feel crappy. I try to use technical terms, so if you don't like me saying crappy other things, I apologize. But I use the technical terms by patients, like they come in and go, it hurts right here. I'm like, so it hurts in your butt? And they're like, yes. I'm like, okay, good. I just use those terms because that's what you use, that's what I used to. So, in looking at this test, is we can see, is your body able to detoxify itself? And if it's not, what we need to do to give you nutrients or foods to help feed that process so your body can do it. Generally it does it, but it doesn't always do it and make you get backed up and cause issues there. So that's why we love this. These three tests right here, that one, organic acids, is about $236.34. They just raised it like 34 cents. It was weird. So for like $700 right there alone, we can get a huge amount of information. Now if we step back and people go, that's $700, that's pretty pricey. I totally agree with you, that's kind of pricey. Let's step back and look at a thyroid test. So normally your doctor may run TSH to look at your, how's your thyroid function? Oh, your TSH is normal. I'm still tired, my hair's still falling out, I'm still this stuff. TSH is the tip of the iceberg. We like to run free T3, free T4, which are free T4 is your storage form, and free T3 is your active form. We also run reverse T3 in there too, because that tells us how stressed your body is, because reverse T3 is like a mirror image of T3 itself, and it actually blocks thyroid from getting into the cell. So you could have normal T4 and T3 in the blood, which the brain will recognize and say, cool, it keeps your TSH at the same exact level, but you feel crappy, pardon my French, and your hair's falling out, and you feel junky, because if you don't run that reverse T3, because if you don't run that, you don't know. But you run that, see, that's elevated, so you have normal levels of the hormone in your system, so your brain's like, cool, we'll just keep producing the same amount, but it ain't getting into the cell at all. And so that's why we run that. Now those tests right there, insurance-wise, is anywhere from $800 to $1,500. So, and that's only 4 tests, versus these tests, which give us about 100 different things. So that's a huge difference of looking at how the body's functioning. We'll still run that thyroid test. That's important to see how your body's functioning. But that's, just to give you parameters of what it is there. And so blood chemistry, cholesterol will also run too, because these all give us really ideas of what's going on with gut function, thyroid testing like I talked about, and then inflammatory markers there. So this is the testing we do in our office to really see what's going on with you as an individual. So blood work itself that gets ordered, for the most part, is you as a statistic. Okay. Which is okay, because we can take that and see if things are off a bit from there and correct things from there. But then we like to do more specific things, which is up here, which is you as an individual. And so we can see you, how you're functioning and moving and grooving and what's going on in your life. So from there, so really, that's kind of a brief overview of what we do and how we get to the point of what we're going to figure out here. And so here is the 5 steps of what we do to really heal gut stuff, to really fix the person's different when they come in, and because testing is going to key us in better on what we need to do. But in general, if you do most of this stuff, you can probably fix the majority of the stuff going on with yourself. Okay. So 5 steps here. We want to remove the stuff that's causing a problem, which is in the diet itself. We want to replace things, which is going to be helping aid digestion, so like digestive enzymes and different things that way. We're going to repopulate. So how do you repopulate? Probiotics, through there. We're going to repair, and that's a different products that we would use to help repair that gut lining itself. Okay, if you don't do the things in the right order, you could make yourself significantly worse and cause problems and make it worse overall. So we have to do things in a specific order in order to fix it. You can't jump to the end and go, hey, we're just going to repair it when you got a lot of bugs in there right now. And we're catching, and it's the ability of what we're able to test for. For the longest time in natural medicine, from chiropractors and naturopaths and acupuncturists, was, hey, you got a parasite. Well, we'd do a stool test on you, it wouldn't show. And so, medicine's kind of like, these guys are crazy. There's a parasite in there, sure, whatever. Yeah, you don't have that stuff. Or you got a virus in your gut. So it was always this. We knew it was there. We didn't have the technology. Now the technology is there. They're actually doing studies now. There was just one I read. I did a little video on our Facebook page about where they looked at IBS and Crohn's. If I remember the 2 correctly. And they were specifically looking at 2 bacteria, E. coli and then another one. Well, they discovered that there was a yeast in there, Candida tropicalis. And so if you had elevated Candida tropicalis, you were more adept to have the Crohn's, if I remember correctly, versus the IBS. And because of that overgrowth of yeast, that was the issue. And they also said in there, which is a mycobacterium basically, they also said too is, we caught some viruses in this spot too, but we don't know anything about them yet. And it was kind of cool. It's like, finally the technology is there that they're catching what we've said for 50 years or better, that it could be a parasite, it could be a bacterium, it could be a yeast, or it could be a fungus, it could be a parasite or a virus within that spot. And so the umbrella term of that microbiome, we're saying that microbiome, that bacteria changes there, we're seeing viruses, so the microbiome, the mycobiome, which is yeast and fungi through there, and then the bacterium. So we're seeing there the parasite. What's the word? It was interesting trying to pronounce these words. The parasite biome. Yeah. So those 4 things that we now have testing that we can do, and that's that test, that GI maps test that we can actually catch all this stuff with. So it's really interesting that we've been saying it for a long time, and medicine was always like, poo-poo. It's like, here's the data. We got it. It's like, we finally, you guys are doing it for us, thanks. Because we don't have any money to do that stuff. You do. And so it was great that we're now actually, through the data itself, we can back up what we're saying now, which is huge. So that repopulate, repair, which is fix the problem essentially through there. Rebalance the system overall, which is move, meditate, or yoga. So these are the 5 steps we're going to do. We're going to go through these here, and then diet's the big one there, and then my little one that we've come up with here is actually the diet. Diets don't work, but this is kind of the way we work with patients, is we look at their diet and life in general. So if we balance these things, they're going to be good for the most part. So the first one is digestion, which we're going to talk about tonight. The second one is insulin resistance, which is a huge issue, or glucose metabolism issues, goes with this stuff too. E is for endocrine, so your hormone system itself. And the T is for thyroid also, or it can be treatment depending on what we're doing. So the diet, this little acronym, is huge. It's huge. All kinds of guys like, this is why, it's as big as the universe. We fix these things in people for the most part, and it fixes nearly everything. But it's a teamwork. We're not fixing it. We're giving you the tools and showing you what you need to do so you can do it. So again, insulin resistance there. We recommend a whole food diet. Intermittent fasting is actually pretty good, so extending that fasting time that we have at night. We fast from basically before you go to bed, sometimes you get up, till you get up in the morning, so 12 hours. So I say extending that a little bit more to noon every so often actually stimulates your body. It stimulates your insulin receptors to actually upregulate a little bit, so it decreases insulin resistance that way. So increasing your dark green leafy vegetables also will help with that. Exercise is huge to help with insulin resistance. Okay, if our glucose levels are elevated all the time, what do you think a cell's going to do? It's going to tell that receptor to say, forget it, because we're loaded already. So then you become insulin resistance. Your glucose level will stay up. So they give you glucophage or something else to try to stimulate those cells to do more receptors. Well, they do at first, but then they're still like, man, there's way too much glucose going on here. We got to shut down again. So then it's the next medication and the next medication until you're on insulin because your pancreas is like, forget it. I'm dead. I've dumped enough insulin out here. I can't work anymore. And so then it becomes the whole, you need that insulin at that point. And this is a great one that there's been several studies on this is get outside. Yell, make noise, rock out, I say. Get outside, just get outside and yell. That actually stimulates your body to decrease its glucose levels to get them into the cell because it thinks it's going to be doing something. It does. It's crazy. You're feeling tired or kind of like after that afternoon little postprandial, like I had my Snickers and a soda and now I'm tired, Get outside and yell, just like, wah, get out and rock out, and boom, your energy's back up again. It's a huge thing. They've showed a bunch of research on that. Is just doing that alone, for men, will increase our testosterone levels. Get outside and just yell. Your testosterone is going to increase. Yeah. Yeah, they'll leave you alone too, which is sometimes good. I got 2 boys at home. It's constant yelling. And they're like, Dad, you're always yelling. I'm like, hey, it helps much, You make mean dad come out, is all I tell them. Like, mean dad doesn't like to come out, but you keep doing it, mean dad has to come out and yell at you a little bit. So that's that insulin, that I part of that. The endocrine itself there, like I said, I cover a little bit of this stuff within here because it fits within how to fix stuff itself. So in the endocrine itself, there's $340 billion per year is the cost of medical care as a result of endocrine disrupting chemicals. So 340. So we have 70 million patients plus a year that come because of GI issues. So do the dollars on that. Now, just from endocrine disrupting chemicals in the environment, plastics, parabens, phthalates, all the stuff that's in that women are using in cosmetics, and men are using too for hairstyling stuff, for shampoos, for deodorants, for stuff we're exposed to in the environment, from plastics, from heating plastics in the microwave, things like that. $340 billion per year in costs alone just from those endocrine disrupting chemicals. That's huge. That's a huge dollar sign. And the microbiome itself is affected by that. So here in particular, this was from my last week's talk, but it is so true for men in general, is the microbiome can increase or decrease testosterone and estrogen levels alone just from the microbiome. And actually it was an interesting article. So like when you have a male horse, when you castrate that male horse, it becomes a gelding at that point. That's what they termed it. In the research article, is the gelding of male population because of bacteria in our small intestine and large intestine. Creates where it decreases the testosterone, increases the estrogen levels just from bacteria alone. And they had a term, the gelding was an acronym for how they spelled it all out, but I was like, that's kind of funny. The stuff scientists come up when we're bored there. But that was a huge one, that microbiome itself, and it showed changes in there, changes our hormone levels significantly. So in the health and beauty aid, if you ever go to a grocery store and you're, HABA line 2 call, that's health and beauty aids. So health and beauty aids, so deodorant, toothpaste, gels, soaps, etc., all that cosmetic stuff is full of endocrine disrupting chemicals. Particularly phthalates, parabens, the BPA, bisphenol A, glyphosate, which is Roundup, which is ubiquitous everywhere, is a known endocrine disruptor. They did a study in Mississippi. Air, water, earth. All 3 were contaminated with glyphosate. Roundup. It's now they've done studies too and looking at not only your standard produce and things like that, but also organics. Organics now, because of their proximity and the amount of Roundup being sprayed, they're now showing contamination within the organics from Roundup itself. It's not as high, not nearly as high as conventionally produced foods, but yeah, it's huge and it's ubiquitous. Since they're supposed to have all this resistant new seeds and everything else, we've had more Roundup sprayed than ever before. It's crazy. It's crazy. Roundup's a horrible one. I also I'm an editor on a journal, International Journal of, what's it called? International Journal of, I don't know, it's out of Europe. But I just had to do, last year I did a review of an article there on glyphosate and what it does to the body and how it's toxic and everything through this. And it was fascinating to read and then making sure the research backed up what they were writing. And it is, it's crazy. When they actually did the study on, not Roundup, but the glyphosate compound itself, its toxicity level was really low in humans. It wasn't that toxic. But when you put it into now the chemicals you can buy at the stores, they attach it to a mineral salt. That mineral salt greatly increases the toxicity and absorbability level. And so when it's truthfully when they're saying, oh, glyphosate's not that toxic, it isn't by itself, and that's what the research shows. Its toxicity level is really low. As soon as you attach that mineral salt, it becomes a quicker absorbed and brought into the system molecule, changes it dramatically, and that's where the toxicity comes from. So whenever I'm talking and people ask about it, and they're like, well, it shows that it's not. And I said, no, read it correctly. It by itself is fine, is not that toxic, but with everything else that they add to it, the mineral salts, makes it severely toxic. So this is a good one too. You can change in both men and women testosterone levels and energy levels just by using light therapy. This was a 10,000 lumen light. You can go on Amazon and buy it. And they put a little UV protector in there. 10,000 lumen fluorescent light. And putting it at 30 minutes a day in the morning increased in men your testosterone level 71%. In women, it helped in different ways. It wasn't that elevation of testosterone as much, but just that little lumen light therapy was significant for 30 minutes to change our mood overall and change hormone levels, which in turn changed gut microbiome. And then, oops, did I miss one? Endocrine. Oh, went too fast. Come on. And I'm like my kids. It never works as fast as I'm pushing it, Dad. So, and again, we always want to balance our hormones and metabolites because that's really beneficial. And if we don't get that balance along with the gut itself, it's going to keep having issues there. So balancing those microbiome is essential for gut function and, as you're seeing, endocrine function too, insulin resistance also. It's huge, 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 huge. So what's the most important thing is what we eat. I haven't eaten dinner yet, so that looks really good right now. Looks really good, Mike. So the food and what we eat is the most important thing that we can do there. So again, diet and removing stuff from the diet is key from there. So, here certain proteins are bad. So dairy isn't one of the best things for you. Okay? A lot of beans isn't the best thing for you. Soy, soy is not one of the best things for you. And definitely the grains up there that are sitting up there and some of the proteins are not good for us. Okay? And this, when we try to work with patients a lot or talk to people about diet, we always, what do you eat? And they're like, well, I have this, this, and this, I have this. And I'm like, okay, so pretty much you have grain, dairy, and sugar all day long. Like, well, I have fruit. I'm like, okay, you have sugar. Okay, you had fruit, good, it's better than the other sugars. But you're having pizza, you're having a burger or something. So pretty much your three food groups are dairy, grain, and sugar. And I was like, okay, we want to change that diet, and we'll go to that, like a Paleolithic style of eating, a whole food-based diet. We're going to avoid those three things that you're eating all the time and go to thousands upon thousands of everything else. Oh, it's too restrictive. Like, it's too restrictive, I can't do it. Like, I took three things that you were eating, which was everything you're eating, and opened it up to 1,000 more. And a lot of times patients are like, I can't do it. Like, okay. But we're just going to have to give you a lot of supplements to try to counteract what you're doing because the food's killing you. Certain proteins are really good here. I mean, you got your seafood there. You got a good, really lean cut of meat right there, like an elk steak. Fred just went hunting and posted their big old, huge slab of elk that they had, rump roast or something. I was just like, oh, that looked good. But that, eggs. So this is really good for us. Our consumption of fish in America has significantly increased in the last 10 years, which is good. It's not where it needs to be. But we've significantly increased our fish consumption, which is great. That omega fatty acid we get from that is huge, 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 huge. Okay. Certain carbohydrates are bad. Remember the grains we talked about, the rice right there, here's some corn, little cornmeal right there. So this type of stuff consistently is not good for us. In the Bible it said what? When we got together as a group, what happened? We broke bread because that was a rarity. Bread was a rarity back then. Now it's mass produced. Consistently a ton. The grain is produced tonnage and tonnage and tonnage every year per acre. You know, the more they can produce, the better. But what does that do? It's in our food supply that we don't need. We don't need that much bread. That's just a simple carbohydrate that's calorically dense but nutrient poor. We want to switch that. We want nutrient dense but calorie poor foods. You know, you have 2 pieces of bread, that's about 150 calories roughly, but no nutrients. Any nutrients in there they've had to put back in because of the processing. Now let's compare and go, okay, you know what? For that same calories, that's like 5 cups of broccoli. It's a lot of food, I know. But nutrient density, huge difference right there. So you're having a calorie poor, but tons of nutrients, and that's what our body's doing. We're overfed, and we're starving ourselves to death for nutrients. We're eating way too much and not enough nutrients. So these carbs are bad. These carbs are good right here. A lot of good carbs right there. Broccoli, cauliflower, your fennel is sitting there. There's some tomatoes, different lettuces, onions, lots of different good food there. Some fruit there also. And then fats are bad. You know, the corn oils, the Wesson oils, the vegetable oils, not good for us at all. Not good for us at all. Whereas these fats are good for us. So you got your nuts in there, you got your avocado, some olive oil, the omega fatty acids from the salmon. Those are all really good fats for us. Huge fats. And saturated fat is actually good for us. You know, the whole sugar craze of, you know, fats are bad, fats are bad. What has that done? Look what's happened in the last 40 or 50 years since that whole fat craze has started. Huge diabetes, huge cancers, huge cardiovascular disease. It's not fat. If you look at the blue zones around the world, which are these little pockets, they call them blue zones. There's no cancer, there's no degenerative diseases, they're really healthy, everything's they're good about because they don't have grain in their diet. They're eating a high-fat, high-saturated diet, but they're getting a lot of exercise and they're getting a lot of nutrients in a nutrient-dense thing. They eat till they're about 80% full, and then they stop. Because of having a carbohydrate-rich diet with a lot of grain, what happens? We don't get that signal from the stomach to say we're full, so we keep getting till all of a sudden we're stuffed. Pants get undone. We're Thanksgiving. Pants undone, sitting on the couch. You know, and this can be cultural too. So a good friend of mine, he's actually Japanese American. His parents came here from Japan, so he was the firstborn here, Japanese American. He ate the standard American diet. He ballooned up. He's like, Jerry, what the heck's going on? I said, you're Japanese. You're not American. You're Japanese. If you had an American mom and an American dad and a Japanese mom and Japanese dad, and you mix the 2 cultural things together, you'd be better adept to handle American food. But you're not. You have to have Japanese food. And he can live off rice and does awesome. He dropped like 60 pounds when he went back to eating classical Japanese food for himself. He's like, but you say don't eat that. I said, for a Caucasian person, yes. For you, no. No. So fats are good, you know, for you in there, and then those carbohydrates independent again. It's cultural for them. But those blue zones really showed that if you ate that style of food, even for us as Caucasians, Americans here, or Europeans, if we ate that style, we fared better. Our cholesterol levels significantly decrease, our insulin resistance significantly decreased, glucose levels decreases, cancers decreased, degenerative diseases decreased, and our health went up. Not just surviving, they've thrived, which is key. We don't want to survive, we all want to thrive. Do what we want to do there. This next slide gets me in trouble a little bit here and there, but it's what we see today. You know? I know, it's a little bit of evolution, but it's like it kind of fits. I always want to throw the one there of, have y'all seen the movie WALL-E? That one? I mean, it's like, man, Costco and Walmart's making us WALL-E. I mean, it is. You go to people's houses, and it's like, oh, let me guess, you've been shopping at Costco. You got the set of chairs, you got the outdoor patio furniture, you got all this stuff. I mean, they have some good stuff there too, but this is what we've done with our food sources. If we can get back to that hunter-gatherer style of eating, then this would go away significantly. They've shown that. A hunter-gatherer diet is huge, huge. I just heard on the radio this morning, and it was actually funny. I had to look it up to verify it. Was the inventor of graham crackers. I forgot his name. Shoot, I don't remember his name. It was a pastor back in the early 1800s, and it was during the temperance phase. So everything like temperate, it was temperate all of our attitudes and behaviors and everything. And so he believed that if we ate graham cracker, these wheat-based crackers and a wheat-based and vegetarian-based diet, it would cure all of our sexual urges and everything else in society. It would temper those. Now, a vegetarian diet is good if you're very sick, you have a high amount of cardiovascular disease. It's good to go vegetarian for a short period of time to clean yourself out. I'm for that. But we want to get you to a more healthier style of eating. And so I looked up and I was like, wow, so like 1820, he was correct that yes, eating a vegetarian or a grain-based diet was going to cause infertility. And it has. And it has, like, man, he knew a lot of stuff back then. It was just funny. I was like, yeah, graham crackers are going to cause infertility. Duh. So what do we recommend? Is it paleo or a vegan diet? Like I said, I'm okay with vegetarian diets for the most part if you are really, really sick. If you got cancer, if you have a lot of cardiovascular disease, and we got to get you switched quickly, let's go vegan. It's going to clean you out rapidly, and research shows that. It will. Don't argue that. Long term, though, it's not the best way to eat. And what do I see with long-term vegans? They're very sick. They revert right back to where they were because it's a high carbohydrate-rich diet. Even though it's a lot of nutrients, it's a high carbohydrate-rich diet with very low protein and very low fat, and it just converts them right back into that insulin resistant phase. I see it all the time. So what do we recommend? We kind of recommend that paleo diet, but we recommend kind of the whole food-based Mediterranean, add a little bit of zone in there, 40-30-30 combination. You can play with the levels there. But this works really well for majority of people. It's whole food. The only processed food right here is the oil, and you're just pressing the olives to get the oil out of them. That's all whole food right there, nothing processed. I always say if it comes in a box, bag, or a can, or made by man, don't touch it. I used to say it had a label on it, but now you can buy stuff in a bag that has a label because they can scan it. So like you got to take that one out because sometimes you buy vegetables in a bag and it's got a label. But it's like box, bag, or can or made by man, don't touch it. But if you canned it at home yourself from your garden, that's okay canned because it's in a glass jar and you canned it yourself. It's not processed like in the mass produced like that. And so patient stores like, what is that again? I'm like box, bag, or can or made by man, don't touch it. So, and again, that 40-30-30, we prefer more complex vegetables in there. 30% lean wild protein in there and about 30% fat. And you can adjust these up or down. It varies. Right now I'm doing a carb cycling program where my carbs are really, really low. And so in this, my carbs are like 5% up to like 20%. So I'm just carb cycling for weight loss right now. So it can vary depending on what you're trying to do. But this, for the most part, you eat this way, it's pretty darn good. You're going to be doing really, really well. So instead of that American food pyramid that we see, it's like the base of it is grain and dairy, and then up at the top it's like a little bit of fat. This is kind of like all grain based. This is kind of the paleo one. It's primarily a good amount of meats. Your wild caught, grass fed type situation there, or fish, and then vegetables, a little bit of fruit there, and then your nuts and your fats up there. That's really, what isn't a whole food on that picture? Anything?
What did you say?
What isn't a whole food on that picture? I can't see one. I've never seen one. Yeah, it's all whole food. And the other one, different things to look at there. The paleo diet itself, you got vegetables, a little bit of tart fruits there, your nuts, your wild meats, eggs, coconut, olive oil, versus not there. It's all grains. All grains up there. Standard American diet, you got your Cheerios and Coke for breakfast. Lunch, you got a hot dog and some Lay's, a little donut in the afternoon. I'm going to feel better. I'm going to try this organic blue agave nectar. That's no different than high fructose corn syrup at all. There, the reason why like bananas and pineapples are here is these are a lot of sugar, and so really it's have like half a banana or a little bit of pineapple with stuff versus a whole one because this converts a lot to sugar in the system really quickly there. The fructose that's in there. So the grains, bread, beans, corn. Now corn's an interesting one. People always ask, well, can I have corn? I'm like, no. Corn is not technically a GMO. They tried to do some GMO corn. It didn't go really well. But for the most part, your corn that's produced has the Bt toxin in it too, which what that does, that Bt toxin built into it to ward off its pests, the pests that eat it. And what that does in pests is cause leaky gut. And the bugs digest themselves from the inside out.
Does organic corn still have that?
It doesn't, but it's still a grain, and it can still be some gluten in there. There's different ones within corn, different proteins within corn that create the same reaction that gluten does in the system. So if a person's already gluten sensitive, they're probably going to be corn sensitive, even the organic one there too. So yeah, corn don't touch.
Aren't carrots high in sugar?
Carrots can be high in sugar if you juice them.
Oh.
But if you're eating it this way, no. And not just orange carrot. Do purple carrots. Have you ever had purple carrots? Oh, they're so good. And the white carrots, all different colors, they're phenomenal. Purple cabbage. Purple cabbage is good. The different colors, broccolis too, are really good too. There's just different coloration. There's just different phytonutrients within those. Those are really, really good. Yeah. And I do say within here, though, is on the dairy portion, Fred Myers now carries it. I was just talking to a patient today. The A2 variety of milk, that protein in milk does not cause insulin spikes.
What's it called?
It's an A2 variety. Most of the dairy is an A1, and these ones are specifically A2. Doesn't usually cause a problem, so you can have a little bit of that is fine, preferably organic, and it's actually organic. It's in the nutrition section at Fred Myers. And then also grass-fed butter is actually okay too. Through that we say you can add that in, that's okay.
So why is soy bad for you? Like soy milk?
There is not any soy that is not GMO. And we don't need that much estrogen in there. The Asian cultures who have soy, they have it on occasion, but they don't have it all the time. Whereas like America says, oh, soy is good for you. I'm going to eat 35 pounds of soy a week, which happens. But we don't need soy at all. And most of the soy, if not all of it, has some GMO within it, genetic modification. So we don't need that whatsoever. Yeah. We don't recommend soy at all. Some docs do still within the functional medicine world, and it's just, and if you talk to some of them, it's like, well, it can help with thyroid stuff, or and other ones like, well, I've never seen it help, and in our patients, I've never seen it help anybody. So we don't recommend soy or soy milk or anything like that whatsoever. If you want something milky, coconut milk is great, hemp milk is really good, oat milk is really good, your rice milk or your almond milk is a little too sugary, but any other ones are perfectly fine. Coconut milk is really good.
So in Asian foods, you have quite a bit. You would have, your flavorings are going to be done with soy sauce.
Mm-hmm.
Your proteins are going to be things like tofu, or you're using miso. And if you're using miso, you're usually having miso breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And
right, but the chunks in there are usually smaller, if I remember correctly.
No, miso is the paste.
Right, you're right, sorry.
Okay, so you're having that as a soup 3 times a day. You're having tofu in it, using miso as well as a flavoring when we're making sauces and stuff. So you are getting plenty of soy. And so when one time an allergist said to me, you should stay away from soy, because, well, you know, it's going to be, if I ever want to eat Japanese food again, that's going to be a little difficult.
Right. And for cultural, yes, for the most part, your culture itself doesn't have a problem with it. But American cultures, for Americans, for the genetic makeup, is they have a problem with it big time.
You mean Caucasian? You mean
Caucasian?
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I would consider
Yeah. Culturally, genetically is what I should say.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
genetically,
European
yes, genetically Asian population itself, that umbrella for that, or the Caucasian being Europe and America type situation. It's your genetic makeup is you tend to be able to handle that way better than we can. Yeah. And if you don't, and if you don't have a problem with it because of your genetic makeup, then I wouldn't worry about it. But for Caucasian population itself, your Asian population, no. So again, here's kind of looking at like a pantry itself. What you have yourself in all your foods, your meats, fruits and veggies through there, and then some pantry items having in there for cooking, almond butter, almond flour is okay, or coconut flour is okay for baking and things, chia seeds. Your canned tuna. Canned tuna is one of the ones. Costco actually has a wild-caught tuna that's actually really good. It's a Pacific caught. Well, it's actually really good there. But like your Sunkiss and the other Starkiss, is it tuna? We don't know. But this, really, it's cat food.
How about the sausages that you have up there? Are you not worried about the fillers that they put in the sausages?
If it's done correctly, no. This isn't your typical Johnsonville brat sausage. Yeah. You know, if you actually look and it's a good one that's made correctly, there isn't a lot of fillers or junk in it. It's just fat and the meat and some spices.
You're not worried about the fat in it.
I love fat. Fat's good for you. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, research shows that fat is not the culprit at all. It's the sugar in the diet. Yeah. We need fat to create cholesterol in our body, and every hormone in our body except for thyroid comes from cholesterol.
So like no turkey or?
No, turkey's okay. Turkey's all right. Ground turkey.
Oh, ground turkey.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. This isn't like, you know,
Chicken and.
it's like a meat, you know. Hey, if it's meat, pretty much you're good. You know,
Okay.
bacon in a small part, uncured, sure. You don't want to eat like 16 pounds of bacon a day. My kids will do that.
Your cholesterol.
It raises your cholesterol a little bit, but that's the biggest thing is, you know, what have we seen since we've lowered everybody cholesterol? Increased cardiovascular disease. Once we've gone on a carbohydrate-rich diet, cardiovascular disease. So we look at cholesterol and say, what's your cholesterol level? What is your body breaking it down to? If we just go by a cholesterol level, some people have really high elevated cholesterol levels, that family hypercholesterolemia, no cardiovascular risk whatsoever. You have somebody who's a 130 cholesterol level, tons of cardiovascular risk. So, is the cholesterol the issue, or is it how you're dealing with that cholesterol is the issue? So again, it's taking that tip of the iceberg lab and going, what is your body doing it down the chain? And then we can tell for sure what we need to do. Do we need to give you a statin? Most of the time, no. There's a small percentage of the population that may need a statin. Or can we do it nutritionally? Or can we do things supplement-wise to correct what your body's genetically doing? And so that's how we look at it. Is we do, yeah, we can. A lot of patients come in. They've seen their primary. They've seen the specialist. They've seen multiple specialists. Every single one has run the same exact test. And it's like, you just wasted $4,000, $8,000 on lab testing. It's the same exact test without truly going, what is your body doing? If we can see that, then we can say for sure, oh, you're breaking this down to a really dense LDL versus a real puffy. We want big, fat, puffy cholesterol, like a big beach ball that's bouncing around in your arteries and just bouncing around because it can't attach to anything. When you get that denser LDL versus a fat LDL, that is like just a Velcro stick and sticks to that wall and then creeps its way inside the lumen and creates the atherosclerosis. We want big, puffy beach balls bouncing around in there. That's what we want.
Do any of the insurances pay for those further tests at all? I mean,
Blood work, yes. They'll pay for it. It just depends. It's always the depends. You know, if you've already had your blood work done for the year, they won't cover it. But
they need your pass a lot of times.
they'll cover what we do sometimes. Yeah, a lot of times they will if it's warranted and we can prove that we're showing this is the issue through there. But the thing is insurance and cash pay price is a big difference. And I'll talk about that when we're done. If you want to know that difference, it's a huge difference through there. So the benefits of really that Paleolithic style of eating, that lifestyle there, is your blood sugar is going to be stable. Your body's going to get into a fat burning mode, so it's going to burn fat. Okay. If the body has too much sugar, what it's going to do is just put it into fat. It's going to convert to fat. Okay. We want to burn fat for our energy source. You're going to have reduced allergies. You're going to have better workouts, more energy throughout the day. You're going to be balanced. You're going to have improved sleep, which is huge. Clear skin and teeth, and then anti-inflammatory. Yeah, you're all going to be sleepy through there. So we remove the diet there. So now we're going to aid that digestion. So here's where we really get into how to fix things there. So when you help to aid that digestion is key. So what do we need to replace there? We usually start with simple things like apple cider vinegar, just to stimulate digestion a little bit. Yes, it doesn't taste very good. I agree with you on
How
that.
do you do that?
I'll take cod liver or
Yeah, I don't want to do either of those. You just do basically a shot. You want to make sure you mix it up really good. It's an organic, like Bragg's has a really organic, good apple cider vinegar. You can mix it up so the mother stays to the bottom, so you want to shake the mother up. It's like going, shake this mother up. You can get it in there and drink it there. I got all the bad jokes. Digestive enzymes are really key to help the digestion if you're not breaking down food very well or you got weak stomach acid, particularly if you've been on a PPI or a proton pump inhibitor or a hydrogen blocker, you're on some kind of antacid type situation. Usually heartburn and indigestion and those things aren't from too much acid. You usually have enough. or it may be low, but what happened is you're not producing enough mucus to protect that stomach or esophagus itself. And once you go on a PPI, and this shows many times over and over and over in the research itself, if you're on that for an extended period of time, longer than a few weeks, you now have changed your microflora within your small intestine and large intestine because you've decreased your acidity within your GI tract. You no longer are digesting foods very well, and you've changed the microbiota within there too. You've basically created what's called SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth issues, which will set up your things for irritable bowel, Crohn's, everything else, ulcerative colitis, other issues. That whole list of that page was like, you set yourself up for that.
What is Crohn's you keep talking about?
It's an inflammatory bowel disease. It's Crohn's colitis. It's ulcerations within the GI tract. Yeah. Gallbladder support too, because we need to help that with the bile within there to help with digesting fats. That's another thing that you can do there also. Betaine hydrochloride is one supplement you can do to help stimulate stomach acid. This is the one, there's some controversy right now. We're stepping back as practitioners and going, is it, if a person has heartburn or gastroesophageal reflux, for a long time it was, hey, it's potentially low stomach acid. Because if you don't have enough amount of stomach acid and acidity within there, that sphincter between the esophagus and the stomach stays open. It needs a certain pH for it to trigger it and then shut it off and close it. But if there's not enough acid, it doesn't close. So for a long time we were saying, hey, and everybody's doing this, and this was the thought process, was thinking metabolically, let's give them hydrochloric acid to stimulate that acid, and that should shut it. For some people it works. For other people it doesn't. So it was like, well, crappers, what are we going to do now? And so now some of the thought, we've stepped back and go, let's try it, see how the person responds. If they do, good. If they don't, here's the next step. We actually start giving them, they're just not producing enough mucus to protect their esophagus and stomach. So we give them mucus-producing herbs. That seems to help that population. And so it's that little bit of trial and error there, a little bit to say what's going to work better this way or that way. And so that's where we're at, saying, maybe it might not be necessary to give them, basically hydrochloric acid here to stimulate more acid. We may have to actually just give them some stuff to coat it, like marshmallow or okra, all those mucusy type things, not actual white marshmallows. People are like, oh, I get to eat marshmallows. Go home, have a moon pie, grab that little marshmallow jar, put it on there, have some bread with that. No, it's actually the herb marshmallow. I know, your eyes went like, boom, like, ooh, marshmallow, yeah. Yeah, I'm going to go home and have a s'more. See, cause some infertility with the graham cracker. I'll have the marshmallow, that'll fix my stomach. The chocolate, I'll be happy. That'll be good. We'll just do that. We got a recipe in one of our newsletters, and it's actually making homemade marshmallow. Oh my gosh, it was so good. It was so good. My wife made a bunch, and we actually did some s'mores with some organic, non-grain-based graham cracker type cracker. I think it was rice-based, and that was like, it was okay. I'll suffer through that. And then some homemade marshmallow, and then some dark chocolate. Oh, it was so good. So good. The kids were like, "This is awesome." Through there. So we do the diet to remove. We have aid digestion and replace. So now we want to fix and repair and repopulate the area. So we want to fix the problem there. So what do? This little product here, Iberogast, it's from Europe. It's a tincture. It's an herbal tincture. It tastes horrible. I always want people to taste horrible. This fixes most of the GI stuff that goes on with people, constipation or diarrhea. And it's an herbal one, so it actually works on both. It's kind of cool. I had just a patient the other day. She came in. I've treated her off on for different things. And she's like, Jerry, I've got this stomach stuff going on. The doc thinks it's adhesions within the GI tract or a motility issue, and he wants to put me on. Basically what they do is they put you on a non-absorbable antibiotic in high doses that cause the stuff just to push stuff through because it's an irritant. And it's expensive, and most of the time insurances don't cover it. She's like, I want to come talk to you and we think acupuncture would help. I'm like, well, what's going on? We walked through just a quick process of, she tends to get constipated, and then she'll have diarrhea, but she has this, it's just basically, he said, you have a motility issue. I said, okay, let's try Iberogast, we'll do some acupuncture. Gave her the Iberogast, said, let's start with 10 drops twice a day with that. Usually it's 20 drops to start with, and let's start with 10 drops just to see, because I know she was sensitive overall. Did some acupuncture, 2 treatments, she's like, I'm going to poop every single day, and all my bloating's gone. I'm like, sweet. Doesn't always work that fast. But this is when it worked fast, and she was like, thank God he wanted to put me on this medication, potentially go in for surgery to explore, see if there's any adhesions or anything else. Simple little fix for her, and it's worked. I said, good, let's stay on 10 drops twice a day. That'll last a long time. She's like, that doesn't taste good. I'm like, I told you. What did Mr. Miyagi say in The Karate Kid? Taste bad, heal good. That's herbs. Taste bad, heal good. So probiotics, prebiotics, those are wonderful things there. With those, the key is you have to know the strain number. So when you go and you grab that probiotic from the shelf, you grab that yogurt that's got lactobacillus acidophilus and bifidobacterium and Reuter, all the blah, 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 all the scientific names, if that's all it has and has no specific strain number after it, we don't know what it's doing. And there's a lot of them out there. We have no idea what they're doing. They're helping people, which is good, but we don't know if it's helping and then going to cause a problem down the road or if it's only going to help for a little bit. The ones we use in office, we make sure we know the strain number because that's the researched ones that work for specific conditions. So when you buy them over the counter, good luck. Prebiotics, again, those are a really good thing. Fermented foods, those are huge, wonderful for that. Fermented foods that'll help with that. Prebiotics also like rabinogalactan, fermented foods, fructooligosaccharides, which is like a fruit sugar. That works really well in feeding the bacteria themselves. So FOS it's called, so those are really good things. Glutamine is another thing we may use within there, usually later on. We don't want to give it right away because it'll actually feed the bacteria. The first layer of cells within the GI tract that pull apart when that leaky gut occurs. What happens in leaky gut is the cells are really tight. And then, if you look at cells this way, we have all the villi that are coming off the cells, okay? And those cells are really junction. So these are the villi. There's just two on this one, but pretend this is all villi through here, okay? Just visualize, you can do that. But the cells are really tight. When leaky gut happens, what happens is these cells start to pull apart from each other. For many different reasons, inflammation, irritation, from the wheat proteins themselves get in there, get into the cell, and they kick off a little hormone called zonulin. That zonulin comes out and attaches to a zonulin receptor in the cell next to it and says, get away from me. So the cells start to pull away from that. That's how wheat does that. And grains do that, so it makes them pull apart. So what happens is, right underneath that initial layer is the immune, the gastrointestinal immune layer itself, lymphatic tract there, the GALT it's called. So nothing gets through that GALT. Everything hits that immune layer, then it gets to the blood. So things don't actually get into the blood. It hits that immune layer, and the body gets a reaction to it. So it's going to say, hey, this doesn't belong here, and it's going to create an antibody against it. Okay, so that's where autoimmunity comes from. If a bacteria gets there or a protein gets there, as long as something in the body is close enough to that structure, that DNA structure, it's going to attack it. There are specific bacteria, and this is back from the 60s and 70s and even more current research, that specific bacteria that are naturally occurring in our GI tract, in our body, will have the similar DNA structure to other cells in our body, to joints, to thyroid, to nervous tissue, to skin tissue, to cardiac tissue. So if that bacteria gets there and the body gets enough of a response to it, you'll get the autoimmune response. Our body should not attack itself. So as we get that, that's where glutamine comes in. If you have that leaky gut there's a couple thought processes. If you give too much glutamine too early, one, you're going to feed the bacteria in the GI tract, and that can cause issues there. That glutamine can get in through that immune layer into the blood supply, and potentially, this is iffy within the cancer world, can cause some issues with neurotoxemia in the brain from that. So it's iffy. So we wait usually to give glutamine till well after we've got most things healed, because the first layer of cells that pulled apart, as they heal and they're healing and getting stronger, glutamine feeds them and they love it. But if they can't get to it because they're away from each other and it's being fed everywhere else, they don't do a good job. So we wait till those start to heal up, symptoms are pretty much gone, then add glutamine in there. So that's where glutamine comes in at. But that's that leaky gut. That's how it happens. The cells pull apart. There's a ton of research on it. Intestinal permeability, whatever you want to call it. It's pulling apart there. So antimicrobials, antifungals, anti-yeast, anti-parasites. Like I said earlier, that single article that I did a little video on showed all those things within the GI tract and being tested for. Again, here we go. Those foods, those mucus-producing foods, the deglycerized licorice. So if you don't have deglycerized licorice, just licorice, it can elevate blood pressure. That's what it does to me. But deglycerized licorice, marshmallow, okra, slippery elm, all those mucus-producing herbs can help coat and protect within that GI tract. And then zinc and copper is another one that's really beneficial for cells to get really strong and form tight junctions for. I'll leave that up there because you guys are writing down feverishly. If you want to, afterwards, I'll get your email address from you, or you go to my website and enter to get our newsletter and stuff. But I can get your newsletter or email from you if you want, and then I can send you these slides if you want to. So you have those. All right, so diet, aiding digestion, fix the problem, supplement the diet. So 5 key supplements, dietary supplements overall that you need to look at here, okay? So food in a pill right there. That's what you want. You want food in a pill. So I use this one in particular, the multivitamin from Designs for Health, because it's a phenomenal multivitamin. What you want to look for in your vitamin, if you're taking your multivitamins at home, grab it, flip it over, look at the ingredients, go right to B12. Okay? It should say, hopefully, methyl, hydroxyl, or adenylyl cobalamin. If it says cyanocobalamin, don't do it. Yeah. Most of your over-the-counters have cyanocobalamin in it. It's not a good BB12. It actually doesn't work very well at all. It actually shuts down some of your mitochondrial processes for energy. Yeah. Most of the ones over the counter have that in it. So you want one of these. If you're having methylation issues, that's kind of a big topic right now in the world is methylation issues. We have to know for sure if you are or not before we do one of these. We'll give you adenylyl instead of the other two because if you're having methylation issues, you can't use methylated vitamins very well.
What's the methylation?
Methylation is how your body's detoxifying hormones and other things in the system itself. It's kind of a big one. It's a small part of how the body functions, but it can cause big issues. And so from some of the hormone testing we do and then genetic testing from 23andMe, we can see if you have what's called the MTHFR genes and see if you don't methylate very well. Yeah.
And so the option would be adenylyl?
Adenylyl, yeah. That's what we use. Some will say use hydroxy. Adenylyl works a little bit better for those for the most part. Sunshine. Vitamin D3. Huge, 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 huge. If you live above San Diego, you're vitamin D3 deficient. If you're not outside all the time, you're vitamin D deficient. Yeah. It's, insurances started covering it a few years ago, and then they realized, every single person we're testing is deficient, so we're not going to cover it anymore. Yeah, I know, exactly. Why cover something that shows something? So yeah, pretty much you can get away with anywhere from 6,000 to 8,000 IU a day of vitamin D for the most part, and that's really beneficial, particularly where we are when it's dark at 6:30 at night through there. So that's you can get away with a good amount of vitamin D3 taking that. Acidophilus. These are ones that work. The salivarius, the sect 5713. The KCI DN114, Reuteri B54. Actually, the one you can actually buy this one over the counter at Rite Aid. Carries the Reuteri, and it's the B54, and so does Natural Grocers. Rhabdomyosis GG, that's another one you can buy over the counter. That actually is really good. Planetarium. Most of the other ones you can't get over the counter. It's prescription only or physician line only. And then the Breve BB99. So that's those numbers I was talking about, because you'll see these things right here on just about anything that says probiotic. That says that, it's probiotics and yogurt with probiotics, and it'll say these things. But we have no idea unless it shows the strain number, what it's doing. And then the B-lactis, the BB12 is good too. And then E. coli, the Nissl 1917. This is a rarer one. You don't see this one around too much, but this does help significantly with some Crohn patients too. But it's expensive. And then the prebiotics, like we talked about earlier, those are really good. The omega fatty acids, your fish oil itself, you really want to make sure you know the DHA and EPA content. Those are key. Those are really key because you can get stuff at your big box stores, and here's my vat of fish oil, and it says I just take one a day and I'm getting 2 grams of fish oil in it. Yeah, but what's your EPA and DHA content? Instead of it's like 130 milligrams out of 2 grams. So I'm like, okay, to get to a therapeutic dose, which is about 2,000 milligrams a day of EPA and DHA, you have to take 20, 30, 40 pills to get there. So your vat you just got, you're going to be burping a lot of fish oil. So I always tell people, look at that, grab it, look at that EPA and DHA content, add it up to get to that 2 grams, and that's how many pills you got to take. Most of the good ones are anywhere from 2 to 4 pills per day to get to that dosage, or it's within a teaspoon or tablespoon. Curcumin, turmeric. Love this herb. This is phenomenal. This is like, right now the research coming out on this is, I mean, it's like the magic one. This is one of those ones like, it's magic, and we're seeing it with patients, it's magic. It's ridiculous. Great anti-inflammatory, helps regulate blood sugar, helps regulate cholesterol levels in the body, decreases inflammation significantly, decreases pain significantly in the body too. This one's a beast that's just working really well. The key with this, again, I love this one because it's just one a day you have to take, and you get a really good dose of about 700 milligrams of the constituents that work in the curcumin. Most of the ones, if it's a powdered form or something else, you have to have black pepper with it, otherwise it doesn't absorb. And even then, to get to a therapeutic dose, you're going to turn orange.
What's the reactionary with the turmeric to, say, Plavix?
We usually start with one and can go and just monitor levels and different things to see how you're doing. For the most part, it just depends. That's one of the things we don't know for sure on a lot of stuff. So if a person's on a lot of medications, we try to go, what's the most important thing we have to do? What one do you want to get off of first, or can we get you off of first and then work your way through there? But most of the time, low doses of vitamins and herbs and stuff aren't going to have a huge interaction with pharmaceuticals. Certain ones do, but for the most part, this one doesn't have a counteractive effect with it. That's from what we've seen. So again, those were kind of the 5 there. Your multivitamin, your D3. These are kind of the base 5. Is once you're healthy, this is all you got to take. You know, you don't really have to add anything else in. Your probiotics with omega-3 fatty acids there, and then curcumin. Those ones are key for getting you healthy and keeping you healthy throughout there. Now, for individual things going on with gut issues, then we get very specific from testing and everything else to correct stuff. And that's the stuff I can't tell you because it's individual. But if you do most of this stuff on your own, you're usually going to fix the majority of your problems, and then we can tweak stuff a lot better that way. So again, remove, replace, repopulate, repair, rebalance, and then the fun one is rebalancing the system overall. This is where exercise comes in. Getting movement, getting outside and yelling, boosting those levels there, huge, you know. Doing meditation or prayer, huge benefit for the body. This calms down the nervous system. In today's society, we're in a sympathetic drive. We're just fight or flight all the time, which stresses the adrenal glands itself and causes that, for the longest time was called adrenal fatigue or adrenal insufficiency. Well, here's the thing. There's no research whatsoever to back up that term. None. There's an article that just came out 2 weeks ago. I have it and I cracked up, but it's the truth. A medical doctor came out and said, this whole thing in the functional medicine natural world, that adrenal fatigue and adrenal insufficiency, there's no literature in the realm of PubMed that term exists in. I said, I totally agree. That term is not there. But if you go to the sports medicine world and look up overtraining and look at that term itself and the results of the body that occurs from overtraining, overstressing the system, it's what the body is for adrenal fatigue and adrenal insufficiency. So I've changed it when my teaching and stuff is I get away from the adrenal fatigue and adrenal insufficiency and call it just overtraining, overstressing the body. Because it puts the body into fight or flight, which is a stress response, and then that causes the adrenal issues overall. It just taxes the body. It's in sympathetic drive all the time. So we try to switch it to a parasympathetic, which is rest, digest, and relax. Versus sympathetic, which is fight or flight, get me out of here, the tiger's trying to bite me in the butt. We want to sleep and relax there. A new term, too, that just came out that we're also using because it will fit within the medical terminology is called CUS. It is called CUS. Chronic unpredictable stress. And that's in the medical terminology. If you look up that term in the literature, it will come up. And so when I'm educating physicians, I'm like, look up CUS, because that's what the patients want to do to you. They want to cuss you out, because you can't find anything wrong with them. And it's chronic unpredictable stress. I added in, which they're also trying to call the adrenal maladaptive stress syndrome, is I call it Cussmas. Kind of like Christmas, because we're all stressed out. We want to cuss a lot, and it's the holidays. But it's Cussmas, the chronic unpredictable stress that causes maladaptive stress syndrome. That's exactly what it is, and both of those terms are actually in the literature, versus adrenal fatigue or adrenal insufficiency. So just start calling it, I have Cussmas. It's just people look at you like, what? And you're like, hey, at least it's in the literature. It backs me up. through there. And then yoga itself there, yoga is phenomenal in balancing the system. You don't have to get into the whole religious aspect of yoga to have it be beneficial. And the good yoga instructors talk about that. They're like, you don't have to do the yogi stuff. You can just prayer on, you don't have to do the meditation we do. Just do prayer while we're sitting here and meditating. But yoga itself, when I was in grad school for my master's, I did a bunch of writing articles on yoga and the benefits of it. It decreases the customers in the body, the stress response, decreases glucose levels, decreases cholesterol levels in the body, increases parasympathetic movement in the body, which decreases stress overall, shuts down sympathetic drive in the system, it changes brain function itself in the body, it eliminates depression, eliminates anxiety. This is all in the research. There is hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of articles on yoga and what it does to the body. Huge, 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 huge. I love it. I love yoga. Meditation too. Meditation and prayer changes the body's physiology. And that's been shown multiple times, many, many, many times, almost as much as yoga itself. In the literature, prayer and meditation changes the body significantly. And exercise too. Simply getting outside. Going out in nature. The Japanese term, I always forget it because I don't speak Japanese. Rishiyoko. I don't know. Look it up. They call it forest bathing. Get out in the forest and go. Those phytochemicals from the plants, getting in touch back with earth, changes the body's physiology. Walking barefoot in the forest or just going out in the woods itself, it's called forest bathing. It just reinvigorates your body. It's Rashioku, I think. I always slaughter it. So again, those 5 steps, we're just about done here. So it's that remove, the diet, replace, through there, aid digestion, repopulate, repair, which is that fix the problem, rebalance, which is that move, meditation, yoga, through there. Most importantly, what we eat, that's the most important thing. It's huge, 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 huge. That's what's causing most of our health problems. Again, fix the diet, aid digestion there, supplement the diet, move, meditate, get through there. Those are keys. Those are the 5 things you want to do. And that fixes the diet, that first slide, that digestion, or diet itself, digestion, insulin resistance, endocrine issues, and then thyroid issues and treatment from there. Those things you'll fix with just doing a diet alone. Diets don't work. I mean, how many people have gone on a diet and they're like, oh, I lost 25 pounds and I gained 30 back? Because diets don't work. Changing your lifestyle, changing how you do things, fixes things. That's what it does. That's why I say our diet works, because you're actually changing things. I'm not telling you to restrict calories. When I work with patients and they're always like, well, do I need to worry about calories? I'm like, nope, I don't care about calories. They're like, what? I'm like, I don't give a darn how many calories you have in a day. This is how I want you to eat. You get these nutrients in, you start monitoring that, you're going to see you're eating a heck of a lot more food and probably more calories than you used to eat, but you're feeding your system and you start to drop weight without doing a single thing different. I had a patient 2 years ago that I've been working with her for probably 10 years on chiropractic stuff and everything. Finally, she's like, okay, let's do this nutrition crap. And I was like, all right, here's what you're going to do. Gave her this diet. That's all she did different. 6 months, 65 pounds. Her medication almost killed her at that point. Because she went to the doctor and he was like, oh, you lost a lot of weight. Yeah, gosh, why do you have all this heart stuff? And she's like, I don't know, I'm supposed to be off of the heart medication. Almost killed her. Medication almost killed her at that point. And they couldn't figure out what was going on in the hospital. And the doctor was like, did you lose weight? And the cardiologist was like, did you lose weight? She's like, yeah, I lost 65 pounds. He's like, we need to take you off the medication because now we're killing you with the medication. Took her off. She's been fine. Haven't been on medication since. All she did differently was change her diet. Never gave her a lick of exercise to do. Never told her to go for a walk or anything else. I just said, change your diet. And she followed it. That's what's cool. So that comes to the end of it there. We do have our Platinum Wellness Club that we have. A little marketing for me here, whatever. You can get our newsletter, what it is, and we do a lot of education in the community. These talks here at Natural Grocers. We're doing more at our office also. But it's a monthly newsletter. We give recipes in there on how to do stuff. We do videos within there. We do education within there. It's free. It doesn't cost you a thing. You just get it once a month. You'll get notifications from us that, hey, we're doing a talk. Come see us that way. If you buy supplements from us, you get a discount with them too. But that's our Platinum Wellness. You can go to our website through your phone and sign up The first thing that'll pop up, there should be a little pop up there, and that'll send you a series of 5 videos of just like what it's like to see us. And it's Dr. Pam and I talking and what to expect when you see us. And then on the right-hand side of the screen, if you go down, you'll see where you can sign up for our newsletter right there too. Just put your emails in there. If you don't want to do like, what's it like to see us? That's fine. Just close that out and just sign up for our newsletter there. We're on Facebook. You can find us on Facebook. We're on YouTube. We're on Twitter. We're on Pinterest. We're on Instagram. We're on all those social media things there. They all tie together. And that's that. And then I just want to say thank you for having me here to talk to you. You guys have been fun. Facebook was fun. My phone was just about dead, so I'm going to close it down. Bye, everybody at home.